Okay, so want to do that example, right? So this is a translation, right? We're doing horizontal translation. Okay, so for the first graph, so we know that um, for y is equals to f of x plus 1. If b is positive, which means the graph moves b units to the left. So we said if B is positive, the graph moves B units to the left or to the negative side. If B positive, graph moves to the negative side, right? So if it was 2 here, right? If it was curving at -2, meaning it will now curve at -3 here, right? So it means it will now curve at -3. So this one, if this point was um was it was 0, 3, right? 0, 3, the coordinate was 0, 3, so which means it will be 1 year. So it's going to be moved, right? So it's going to be 1 year. So meaning our graph will take on this, right? So it will curve at something like this here, right? Here, right? And then it will cross here. So this was 3, right? So this will be 3. Let me show you. So the original, we have a trace like this. So the original, if we have -2 here, so the original had a trace like this. Here with 4 here, exactly. Here. So the translated one, we've translated it in the x-axis. It has moved 1 unit to the left. So we just shifted it. So you can see the clear distinction. Kuti ramove 1 unit to the negative side, right? So I've drawn the original in red, then the translated one is in white. Turongori shifta kuenda negative side, right? So for the B, the second one, y is equal to f of x minus 2. So if it's negative, it means it's moving what? It's moving, so it's 2 units to the positive side, 2 units to the positive side, right? So if it was, so this point was 3. So it doesn't move. So the y values doesn't change. They don't change, right? So here, so it's moving 2 units to the right. So if it was 0 here, so it's going to be, this point is going to be 2. So this is the point that it's going to. Yep. Okay. So which means if this was -2 here, -2, so it's going to be 0 here, like this. So the graph is going to be something like this, right? So it's going to be something like this, and then it will be here. So if it was 4 here, it's crossing the x-axis at 4, then this one will be +2, which will be 6. So it's now crossing the x-axis at 6 here, right? So let me draw the original trace so that you can appreciate. So the original trace was, let's say, -2. So the original trace was something like this, right? So the original trace was something like this here, with 4 here, right? The original trace is the one in white, and then the translated one is the one we put in red. So that's how you translate graphs, right? So no machine learning translation. So this point will be 2, 3. Yeah, that's the point. Okay, so moving on to reflections. So now we are moving on to reflections. Let's move on to reflections. Okay, so reflections. So there are two types of reflections. First, we have reflection about the x-axis. Second, we have reflections about the y-axis. About the y-axis. So let's start with the reflection about the x-axis. So reflection about the x-axis, right? So reflection about the x-axis. So it takes on the form. So it takes on the form y is equal to negative f of x, right? So this means all the y values, change sign. All the y values change sign, and the x values remain unchanged. So the x values remain unchanged, but all the y values are the ones which change sign. So reflection about the axis, it means that x-axis is the mirror line. It means that the x-axis will be the mirror line. So that's what it means, right? If we're doing the reflection about the x-axis. Okay, so let's look at reflection about y. Then reflection about y-axis. Reflection about y-axis. So takes on the form. So it takes on the form y is equal to f of negative x, right? So this is the opposite, which means all the x values change sign. So all the x values change sign, and then which means the y values, so the y values remain unchanged. So the y values are changing, y values are changing, right? So means the y-axis is the mirror line. So the y-axis is no longer mirror line, right? Okay, so let's look at an example. So I want to look at an example, right? So so given the sketch below, right? Given the sketch below of y is equal to f of x, right? So we have a sketch below here. So the sketch is, so we just use the previous example we just used here, right? So 3 here, right? 4 here. So it's the previous example that we're using. We want to sketch graphs of a y is equals to negative f of x, and then b y is equal to f of negative x. So I want to sketch these two graphs, right? So I'm going to sketch, let me change the color. I'm going to sketch them in blue. Let me put blue here. So the A, I'm going to sketch it here. Right, so A, okay, let me draw my axis, right? Okay, Y. Right, so the first one, so this is a reflection about the x-axis. X-axis is the mirror line, right? So the Y values are the ones that change sign, right? Meaning if 3, there was positive 3, meaning there will be negative 3, right? So that's what it means. There'll be negative 3, and then the what? The x values remain the same. Here we have 4, here we have minus 2. They don't change, right? So meaning it will take on this form, right? You take on this form right here. So let me just put the rubber. Let me put okay, it's fine. here. So I just wanted to put 4 here. So this one will be the 4. Right, something like this. So let me show the original graph in red. So the original graph was something like this. I want you to appreciate the reflection. Right here, the original graph was something like this. Right here. So you see the reflection and the x-axis acting as the mirror line. Right. So that's how reflection about the x-axis work. We're just reflecting. There was positive 3 here, and it has become negative 3. So simple and straightforward. Right. I'm going to sketch the B1 here. Right. So okay, B here, we have B. Okay. So reflection about the y-axis. This is reflection about the y-axis, right? So the y-axis is the mirror line, right? All the x values change sign. So the x values with -2 here and then 4, right? So meaning they change sign. -2 becomes 2, 4 becomes -4, right? So we have -4 here and then we have 2 here, right? So we're just reflecting it, right? So which means it's going to take like this, then it's going to be like that, right? Yeah, that's the E. So that's how it's going to be. So this one is 3. It means the y values remain unchanged. The x are the ones that change sign, as you can see. So let me put in red to show the original one so that you can appreciate how we did it. So here with -2 here and then with 4 here. So the original one was something like this. Here. So, right, so you can appreciate, right? We just reflected it about the y-axis is the mirror line. So the y-axis is the mirror line here. Okay, so that's all about reflections. That's all about reflections. So now that's all about reflections. So any questions, guys? Any questions? So we'll do dilatations tomorrow. That's when we'll do dilatations or stretch. Right? We'll do dilatations or stretch tomorrow. Okay. Thank you guys. Have a great day.